really excited that we're having these series of 4 co-op webinars that are designed to strengthen Hawaii co-ops. And we're really thrilled that we're getting so much interest in this and that people are learning things, which is so incredibly wonderful. So this is the 3rd in the series. Members are the foundation. We've got some really great guests today that I'm gonna have Donna introduce in a few minutes. So I just wanted to remind people that we have one more after this, the financials and fundraising, which is gonna be in May 19th, the 3rd Thursday. So it looks like some of our information out there might be a little off on the date, but that's when it is. It's the 3rd Thursday. So I'm going to turn it over to Donna and let her get started on talking about Members Are Our Foundation and introduce our guests.
Thank you, Teresa. Good evening, everyone. My name is Donna Shapiro. I'm the general manager of the Hawai'i Ulu Cooperative. And I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker tonight, Travis Forbes, Executive Vice President of Organic Valley, of membership of Organic Valley. And I just wanted to give a quick background into how Travis and I met. Our co-op, the Hawai'i Ulu Co-op, was founded in 2016 with 9 farmers from the Big Island, and we've grown over the last 5.5 years. Today we have about 124 members across 3 islands. And a couple years ago, we were doing some research on how other co-ops market themselves and brand themselves. Specifically, we didn't have money for any fancy certifications, so we wanted to see how other brands were successfully messaging their values to their customers and communities. And we landed on Organic Valley as the best model for our farmers in Hawaii because they message their values and their appreciation and focus on their farmers so clearly and also very attractively. They have beautiful marketing. And that was the first time that Organic Valley really crossed my radar as just a great example for our co-op and other co-ops in Hawaii. And then last summer, we were looking for a successful, more established co-op to come to our annual member meeting and educate our members, inspire our members, share their story. And I just cold called Organic Valley and didn't get any response because they didn't know who I was, but tried a few more times. And lo and behold, Travis Forbes emails me. And I didn't know who he was, but I learned that he was their 100th farmer. He was a dairy farmer in Vermont in the late 90s. And we had just surpassed 100 members. I think Saleh on this call may have been our 100th member at Kahumana Organic Farm. And Travis worked through membership into being a board member and eventually into being an employee. And he agreed to come out to Hawaii for a week and talk to our members and be a guest speaker at our annual member meeting, which was amazing. And since then, his generosity of his time and expertise and experience just doesn't cease to just totally amaze me. And I'm very grateful, Travis, that you could be here with us today and share your insights with more of our Hawaii community. So with that, I'll turn it over, and mahalo again for being here.
Well, that was nice. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and for you guys, not night. Out here, it's a little after 10 o'clock. And it's been a delight to be connected to Ulu. To be honest with you, my whole life, crop, which is also Organic Valley, has been it's been my life's work in a lot of ways. And there's not a lot of places or a lot of people that get me excited about where things can go. And Donna has been that for me. It reminds me of what we did at Crop and that kind of excitement. There's just so very, very few opportunities in life to be involved where you're actually making a difference, a true difference for your community, for your farmers, for your neighbors, and for the world. And I really do believe that you guys have that opportunity there at Ulu to do something pretty amazing. And you can't do that without a hero and a leader. We have one who was our farmer number 8. His name was George Seaman, who was our founding CEO. And I think you have, it takes a special person like George. I think you have it with Donna. So that's, it's intriguing to watch you build this and grow. And so I'm happy to be here. I'll give you guys a little bit of what we are, and hopefully it gives you some inspiration as you guys continue to grow and get bigger. I love the fact that the line that you're using in these series are members of the foundation. If you want to have a real cooperative, or you really want to have an engaged group, it all starts with your members, your mission, your vision, making sure you know why you exist and where you're going. You don't have to know where you're going to end, but you do need to know where you're going. So we'll start this presentation. Now Donna knows, but I'll pass along to all of you. I'm pretty candid and love questions. What Donna doesn't know, but Andrew knows, I can't read chats and pay any attention, or I lose my total train of thought. So happy to answer questions. And if you want me to stop, just have Donna stop me, or Andrew stop me, and I'm going to ignore the chat line. Why don't we go to the next slide, Andrew? We'll get this going. Is it moving? Okay. So, yep, there's me. Yeah, I'm Farmer 100. I've been part of the co-op for 22 years. And the cooperative, we'll talk a little bit about the history later on. But my state, which was the state of Vermont, which is in the farthest northeast corner of, well, the northern edge of New England anyway, on the mainland, was really part of the eastward expansion of Organic Valley. Organic Valley started in Wisconsin, spread into some of the Midwestern states, and then ended up in New England. And people go, how does that happen? And in reality, it happened because people were so excited about what Organic Valley was doing, they wanted it for their farms. But I'll save that for the history. Donna did a good job explaining me where I'm at. I do oversee all of membership, and from the first contact to farmers, which can be 3 years before they become certified organic, to delivery of the product. We're predominantly a dairy cooperative, but we also work with egg farmers, meat farmers, produce farmers, and we have a grower pool, which is actually creating a symbiotic relationship between folks that are growing grains or hay for livestock, and then our livestock folks. So we try to keep them both a little bit unhappy, but working together. So, $1.2 billion business today. And it started with 7 farmers, but we'll get there in a second. What I do want to show you is a video. This is it's not a propaganda video. It feels a little propaganda-ish. This was made for an annual meeting maybe 5 years ago. And it really just tries to capture who we are. There are no stunt doubles or any non-farmers used in this production. Go ahead, Andrew. You're on mute.
What happens when idealists become farmers? We love what we do. We love who we do it for. Farming organically isn't the easiest way, but we know it's the right way. If you ask us, cows are a lot like kids. The more time spent outside playing in the grass, the better. We treat our animals and the earth with care and respect. It shines through in the quality of our organic products. We believe farming is both an art and a science. We just choose not to make it a chemistry experiment. One of the most important jobs we have is getting out of the way and letting nature do its thing. Here, farmers own the company, not the other way around. We are cooperative. And by definition, that means we've come together for our mutual benefit. It means we know we're stronger together. It means we realize we're all connected. Because when you think about it, we're not the only members of this co-op. The people who buy our food are members. The animals, the plants, the soil, and every living thing in the ecosystem are all members too. Organic Valley isn't so much a place as it is belief in a better way. A belief that when we do what's right for all of us, when we cooperate, the good that comes out of it ripples outward. And if you share this belief, you're part of our mission too. We're bringing healthier, better tasting food to the people. We're bringing family farms back from the brink. We're bringing about the change we want to see in farming and in the world. Organic Valley, bringing the good.
Okay. So we can go to the next slide. I will tell you, for the folks that watch that video, usually brings tears to their eyes from our own members, because it really resonates of what we're doing. I strongly encourage you all, as you continue to grow whatever co-op you have, and you utilize your members to help give out the concept of the love and the work you're doing. There's nothing cheaper and nothing more authentic for any movement than to utilize something like that. And it's been really a way that we've been able to fight through a lot of corporate money and all those kind of things, because we didn't start with any money. So let me give you an intro to what Crop Cooperative started as and where we are today. We started in 1988. For all of you that don't understand dairy, I'll just give you a little bit here. The 1980s was a tremendously, not dangerous, just terrible time for agriculture in the mainland, specifically around dairy. The interest rates that we see today are nowhere near what we were seeing in the 80s. It was it was double-digit inflation, double-digit interest rates, and farmers were going out of business left and right. Family farms, rural communities being destroyed, and a huge spike in suicides that were going across the country. And it really drove a lot of people to say, is there something different we can do here? Can we create something that looks to treating farmers with dignity and respect, and doesn't lead to this kind of catastrophe? And so 7 farmers gathered together, 7 farmers with very distinctly different cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, political backgrounds, really diverse group of people. And they put all of that aside, and they came together and said, we want to do something that's never been done before. We want to find a way to build a transparent vehicle for stable pricing for our product. And all of them had really bad experiences with co-ops. So they all hated cooperatives. So they decided to start a co-op because they hated all other co-ops and they wanted to do it different. And so they did. And so the co-op was started with a simple concept that we were going to set a farm gate price. So we were going to figure out what is fair, what should we get paid, and then we were going to sell the products at that price. And if we didn't get that price, then we actually put all of the organic milk into the conventional market and took conventional. And for a few years, actually probably the first 8 years, the original 7 and as they added a little bit more of supply, never got to their target price. Their target price at the time was like $14.70, I believe, and they never got there, for like 8 years, because it takes a long time to build it. But they had this vision that there was a way to do this where you set a price and then you work from the farm gate price, then you have cost of goods, and then it goes to the consumer or the customer, and not the other way around, that whatever's left goes to the farmer. So they started being slightly successful with their 1 load of milk. They were making cheese, but they were starting to be a little successful. And so that's where we ended up, people across the river of the Mississippi in Minnesota said, hey, I want to be part of something like that too. Can I join? And, the farmers, didn't really know how to say no. And, because everyone wanted to see something different. And so you started seeing this expansion, and serendipity helped, and reasons that we exist continued to drive forward. So we moved into Iowa, we moved into Indiana, Illinois. I was part of the Vermont and New Hampshire movement. And there was always a leader in the different regions, but ultimately we found opportunities, be it with new customers or different partners, for us to be able to expand. We now exist in 34 states. We represent over 1,700 farmers now, 950 employees to do what we do. We're almost entirely virtual. We do have 2 headquarters. We have a distribution center. We have what we believe is the largest ghee facility in the world, though I guess you could see, I don't have that in the Guinness World Book of Records, but we're pretty sure that's us. And then we have a butter facility, a very small butter facility. And then we have a almost rebuilt powder facility in Oregon. We had a fire almost a year ago. So we're just rebuilding that. But for the most part, we have relationships. We've been built as a marketing cooperative that's virtual, in the respects of we have to have partners. And so we have to be finding ways to be, relationship minded. So we work with 90 different co-processors across the country. Some of those folks are frenemies for sure. But processing is one of those things where we just didn't think it would be in our best interest to own too much metal. And we wanted to invest the dollars that we could spend in getting our story out and getting our products on the shelves, and finding ways to save more farmers. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So, it's always important to have a mission and a vision. And we have a couple of really long ones. The co-ops always has a hard time. We're not really good at being concise. And our mission and vision has stayed pretty true for a very long time. But I want to say about 5 years ago, our founding CEO, George, was kind of just coming up with, a 50-year vision, because, Crop Cooperative wasn't built to be sold. It wasn't built with any concept that it had an end date. And really, we were busy trying to think about strategic visions. And it was really like a 3-year vision or a 5-year vision. And George says, well, the hell with that. I think we have to have a 50-year vision. And it seems like a long ways out. But it really does set the context of what we're doing here. This is not about us. It's about our children. It's about our grandchildren. It's about their neighbors in the future. And so our 50-year vision is an honest farmers marketing cooperative that is dynamic, capable, and flexible in running an excellent mission-based business. You'll not see anything in there that says we guarantee that our farmers are all going to make money. You're not going to see anything in there that says that everyone's going to be profitable, or that it's going to be easy. There's none of that stuff in there. What we said, and we can't say that we can always hold the price that we have today, but what we can always be is honest and doing the best we can to be transparent to the membership, regardless of what's going on. And of course, to stay true to our mission. And so when George put this out 5 years ago, we kind of said, well, that sounds really great. And what you'll see is I tend to use this in every presentation. It grounds me, and it just reminds me of what we're here to do. And it's not about just tomorrow, and it's not about just next year, which, by the way, kind of fits with most farmers, because if farmers were thinking about 1 year, they wouldn't really get up after a bad season now, would they? It's all about the future, and it has to be that way. And for a cooperative like ours to be strong and vibrant and to last, you always have to be thinking about the next generation, and not just about pay price, or not just about what can serve the individual today. I can't go much farther without using my favorite word. And Donna, you've heard it enough, and Andrew hears it twice a day. But on a side note, our membership, which is pretty diverse, not in race, that's not where we're diverse, but we're very diverse in our different cultural beliefs. 43% of our membership is plain community. So you're talking about Amish, Mennonite, evangelicals. A lot of these folks, or most of these folks, don't have any kind of power, electricity. It makes member engagement a little interesting, but there's a ton to learn from those communities, and we spent a lot of energy and time trying to understand, essentially our biggest stakeholder in the cooperative. And one of the words that they've taught me is gelazenite, and that word really stands for serving something bigger than yourself. And CROP has been built on Mondragon Theories, which is another cooperative over in Spain. It resonates that to make things work for this cooperative, we have to always be thinking about something bigger than just myself, my farm, my community. It's about the whole. And so this 50-year vision really resonates with me on that, and with our farmers. Because trust me, when you get to the size that we are, the farmers are not always going to agree. But if we can work on coming from a place of good intent and from a place of serving something bigger than yourself, then you can find ways to work together as you move into the future. Okay, next slide. We're kind of thinking about what we are going to tell you guys when it comes to our mission, our vision. I think the video kind of gives you an idea. You just saw our 50-year vision. But I think what the biggest accomplishment when CROP is all said and done, which should be like 300 years from now, is the ability for stability for organic family farms, right? There's nothing that was more important to me than when I signed my first agreement to be on an organic truck, and I knew that I had a stable price. In the mainland or anywhere when it comes to dairy, stable pricing is not anything that has been ever achieved. It's always been about market and really manipulation in a lot of ways of how cheese was being sold by big barrels of cheese in Green Bay, right, or Chicago. And that was setting pay price across the country on a month-to-month basis that had wild variations. So you never could count on anything. You surely, when you're farming, right, you can't count on the weather. You can't count on if it's going to be hot or if it's going to be cold. And there are 100 variables that you can't control. What we've always strove to be able to control is giving farmers at least the understanding of stability on their pricing so that they can make decisions on their farm. Doesn't mean that they always make smart decisions. Now, that's giving people a choice doesn't mean that they always are financially, making the right choices. We have farmers that make some really poor decisions and over leverage themselves, just like anyone in the real world. But again, having stability, at least you know what you're working with, and then you can make decisions on your farm. So again, CROP can't make sure that we're going to make everyone make money. And CROP and Organic Valley, guys, I'm sorry, I use them synonymously. CROP Cooperative is our co-op. Organic Valley is our brand. We merge them all the time. But so CROP can't guarantee that everyone's going to make money, but it can guarantee stability, or at least that we're going to fight to continue to hold stability in a very transparent way. Donna, do I have any questions yet?
Nope, you're keeping
Okay.
everybody engaged.
I'm keeping everyone engaged. Okay. So want to show you a map of who we are. Okay. So I mentioned 34 states. Every one of those dots, for the most part, because a lot of them are overlapping, but every one of those dots represent one of our families. Okay. And I take great pride, and I also take, there's a reason I don't call it supply, or I don't call it, a dot. I call them lives and families because it's what they are. And so Organic Valley is very unique. We stay committed to our farmers. They're our owners, but they're also neighbors and communities. And so every one of those dots, when we show these to buyers, to customers, we do everything we can to emphasize the reality of what these mean. Because if we deal with a customer who says, I want to bring on a lot of milk, just say a lot, and it represents 100 families for us to do that. And then in 3 months, I go, well, that didn't work, or I don't need that supply anymore. You're on your own. That doesn't work with us. Because once we go and we commit to those farmers, then we're committed And I don't mean that like, oh, we've just tied an anchor to ourselves. We're committed to making sure that those farmers have a life and are committed to moving forward in what we're trying to do with crop. So we are very clear to customers of what this really means. You guys will see we have some dots in Europe. We have a cooperative that we're a sister cooperative called OMSCO that we're connected to. They represent about 100 farmers in England, and that 100% organic. We have a group in Australia that we work with that does some grass-fed beef. We did have a asparagus grower in Canada, but that just stopped, I think, in the last month. I think I just heard that today. So 34 states, 2 other countries, and we continue to always be open to opportunities as they happen around the country.
Travis,
Okay.
we have a couple questions in the chat.
Yep.
One of them is, can a nonprofit become a member of the co-op? Are there any limitations or rules as to who can and cannot be a member of the co-op?
Yeah, great question. So to become a member of CROP, you have to be an actual family farm. And we're actually working on just some fine details just recently on making sure that everything we say to the word is correct when we're talking about marketing claims. But we do not work with non-family farms. So that's kind of been our big requisite. We also don't, work with large farms. We have average herd size of 78, which is very small in the world that we live in today. We do have a handful of farmers that are larger, but they are also small in the regions they're from. And I think that's important. And so we don't have any nonprofits unless it was a family farm that was not making money and somehow made itself a nonprofit, which some of our farmers think they do every year with their 1099s. But overall, no, we don't work with nonprofits. We have in the past. There's ways to being part of the cooperative through, we have an e-share program. So an equity program that's closed right now, but that we sell that was a 6% return, and then we did a 4% return where anyone could join and put money into the cooperative in that manner. They didn't have the rights of voting or the control of membership, but they could be part of the co-op in that manner.
Thanks, Travis.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you keep going and I'll keep track of the other questions in the chat for a little bit later.
Okay. So next slide. I told you we had 2 headquarters. On our history slide, I showed you that was our second headquarters, which is in Cashton. Cashton is a huge metropolis of about 1,000 people. And it's about a half an hour away from one of our larger cities, La Crosse, which is about 50,000 people. This beautiful building was built in the town of Lafarge, which I think the sign says, well, what does this sign say? The population is 961. In reality, I think it's more like 450. And when we fill the building, we get to 961. So I think they took the population when we have a full building there. So, this Lafarge is what you call a very small rural town in Southwest Wisconsin. People say, why would $1 billion business stay, where it doesn't make any sense for recruiting? It doesn't make a lot of sense for, growth and making sure you're getting the right executives and all that kind of stuff. Reality is we're committed to our farmers and we're committed to our communities. And Vernon County, which is in the state of Wisconsin, was one of the poorest counties in the state. I think it was the most poor. And what CROP has been able to do has been pretty important and amazing to the rural community, and has changed that story. We hired 950 people, and as our mission of being transparent for family farms, very important. Stable pricing is very important. What we do to rural communities and staying committed to rural communities, also very important. And, the idea of leaving Lafarge, and Andrew can attest, it's going to be a long, arduous task to pull me out of this building. We belong to this community. and we have to stay true to our roots, and leaving small communities doesn't solve anything, doesn't fix anything, and it would destroy people. It would destroy this area and this community. And again, I think I've been quoted a few times lately because we've been working with some farmers in the Northeast. You know, we are not corporate. We are not a stock company. We are not built to be the maximum profits. And sometimes you have to do the right things, even when they don't make money for you, but it's the right thing to do. And for us to leave Lafarge or leave Caston or leave Vernon County and go to Minneapolis or do what other big companies do wouldn't be right. And so I show this to you because as you guys grow, and you're going to grow and you're going to continue to get stronger, you know, I strongly encourage you to stay close to your roots. If you plant the right ulu tree, the roots will go deep, and you don't want to leave the area, and the symmetries and serendipity you can create in rural communities is so important. I think that the country has fallen on terrible times because we lost a lot of our agricultural communities. And I think Hawaii is one of those areas you can point to and say, man, we'd really like to have some of that back. And I think, you know, the mainland is in desperate threat of losing family farms. So yeah, and if you lose family farms, you lose rural communities. When you lose rural communities, you lose connection, and that doesn't serve any of us. So you guys have seen some sunflowers. We do a little work of biodiesel. So we've done some of that kind of stuff with our own sunflowers. The building built up in a park in a town where we started. We had a fire in 2013, had to rebuild this. But really the first floor that you're seeing here, which is kind of the second floor, I have about 140 total employees in my membership department. About 100 of them are in that building. So just a point to continue to encourage you all to stay local to your local communities. I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, now I know I'm talking to a bunch of people that are part of a co-op, but this slide matters. And coming off of our last annual meeting, which was 2 weeks ago, you know, we always have to remember that the farmers own and they govern the co-op. And that's not just for the employees to remember, that's also for the farmers to remember. And that's really important. And so we spend a lot of time and energy and money in keeping an engagement with the cooperative. So I'll show you the next slide to give you an idea of where we land on some of these things, right? So up on the top is crop membership. That's the 1,700 farmers. And then you can see that we have our crop board directors. We have our OMC board, which is a subsidiary of crop, which is our meat company. We have that as a separate company to protect because of risk of meat problems like E. coli or salmonella, and wanting to protect our dairy business. Then you have board subcommittees: finance, audit, governance, personnel, compensation. But then we also have board appointed member committees, which we just filled those slots today in our board meeting. That's our nomination committee. We have an election and tally committee. We have dairy adjustments committee, co-op committee, FAFO committee. FAFO is our own not generated, but self-funded farmers advocating for organics. It's actually got grants, Donna, that you could probably find a way to apply for. And our farmers are looking for organic projects or projects that are helping sustainability, those kind of pieces. Then we have member elected committees. So you see all the ECs. So in a perfect world, and we're not truly there because we've kind of grown and we're readjusting, it's kind of like a House of Representatives for each of the different pools. So about every 25 farmers would be represented by an executive committee member. So our dairy pool obviously is the biggest pool. There's about 85 farmers, and then we have an alternate for each region. So that's the 85, well, 90, because I think we have 45 or 47 regional meetings. So it's about 85 to 90 executive committee members. But we have that for all of our group: meat, egg, produce, and grower. The Gen O Executive Committee is a little bit different. Gen Os are 18 to 36 years old. They're working on getting into an election. I think they might have done elections for the first time this year. Actually, I know they did. It had been appointed, but that's us trying to make sure that we're bringing up younger farmers, not necessarily to train them in how to be a better farmer, but how do we immerse them in governance so that we have the right people remembering who we are, what we are, and keeping this alive in that 50-year vision. That just doesn't happen without putting them all together and working with them. You'll see a dotted line off the dairy EC. That's our WIP committee. That's work improvement plan. So we actually have a farmer committee that helps other farmers that are not doing well with quality. We don't have a, like, you know, you're bad quality, you're out. That's not who we are. So we actually work with the farmers for a very significant amount of time before we would ever walk away from a farmer. As long as people are trying, they're not going to be at risk, but they have to be trying. And so we've also have a farmer committee that helps farmers. And then you'll see over at crop staff, we have some member appointed committees. Now, a lot of these, you know, answer in to me in one form or another. But again, that's for looking to get guidance and feedback from farmers about some delicate issues. We have pasture is a big integral part of organic agriculture. It's very important to our cooperative members, but it's also a science, or it's an art, not a science. So it's kind of hard to always know how much grass is in each acre. And, you know, so there's a little bit of art to that, and having farmers that are good grazers, part of the committee that help the staff make sure that we're not, you know, misjudging the farmer is important. Farmer messaging group is a group that meets once or twice a quarter that we can bring subjects to candid farmers that we know and say, hey, what do you think about X topic? And they can give you feedback of how we should talk to members, or if it's going to be a big issue or not. We have a small farmer giving group. That's money that comes in from our profit sharing program, which we haven't been doing profit sharing for a few years. So it's kind of a group that's probably going away. But the other thing that we also do is task forces. That has a beginning and an end. And so we have an animal care task force that just finished up. We had, I believe, 15 members on that committee. Andrew, is that about right? I think it was 15 that were meeting like weekly, working through our enhanced animal care process. We continue to find that if you have farmers working on policy to give real feedback, if things are actually possible or doable, you're in a lot better place than if it's just you know, crop staff tell farmers how to do it. So at any given time, we have between 300 and 400 of our members are involved in some kind of committee. So it's a lot of governance. It is messy. There's no question about it. And it is absolutely not the easiest thing we can do to make sure that we have a lot of engagement, but it is integral to making sure that we're different than everyone else, and putting in that effort to make sure that we are getting feedback and we're getting engagement with our membership. Okay. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys this, but it is important. You know, what's the difference between a cooperative and corporation, and how do we make sure that we remember what those are so that we don't fall down the road? And, you know, to me, cooperative, we have equity, members have equity in it. It has to be truly democratic. It has to serve the common good, and it has to be mission driven. Now, that's not every cooperative. I should have probably put crop cooperative, right? Because not all cooperatives do that, but that's what makes us where we are today after 34 years, and us fighting for a 50-year mission and our vision. Now, corporations are very different than that, right? There's a value to the cooperative, or to the brand, or to the business, right? You can sell it. It's usually run top down. So you have either an equity owner, or you have an executive who is answering to stock shareholders, right? You're serving shareholders. And then ultimately it's usually short term. You know, people are looking to their quarterly returns. They're looking to see how you're growing, and are you acquiring? What's your EBITDA? You know, it's funny, EBITDA. is one of those financial terms that I'm starting to learn a lot more about. I never used EBITDA at all for the first 31 years of the cooperative. I don't think we ever used that term. We're a net profit kind of company. EBITDA, it really talks about the value of your brand, value of your business. And, we're kind of built not to sell. So EBITDA doesn't really serve us a whole lot. But it is very important if you're a corporation. Just so you guys understand this too, I don't necessarily hate corporations or public stock companies. You have to know why they're doing what they're doing and what they are. And so Danone, Dan and Yogurt, and a whole lot of different companies, and they own Horizon, just did a terrible, in our opinion, dropped farmers in the Northeast and left them without a market, and really wouldn't talk to them. And these farmers didn't know where they're going to go, and we're in the process of picking up the vast majority of them. But I can't look at Danone and go, they made a mistake. If your corporation is looking for maximum profitability and efficiencies, then having small farmers in the middle of New York or up in Vermont or in Maine doesn't make any sense to the model, right? They're not treating those dots as lives. They're treating those dots, as a supply line. Now, I abhor that kind of behavior. I have no interest in being part of a co-op or a corporation. But the reality is, if that's what you're put on this earth to do, I don't expect anything different. Now, is it okay? Is it ethical? Does it have a moral compass? Is it anything that they should be doing, regardless of dropping farmers or treating human beings in that kind of manner? Absolutely not. We have to fight against that kind of behavior in any area. That shouldn't be okay in your moral compass. But until we start changing the country, we're going to be dealing with this, or change the world. This is what we deal with. So you have to make a choice. Now, crop cooperative is a choice that I think that we can give and we can message. That's what we're doing. And I think ULO can do the same thing. And I think other cooperatives can make a choice and then market to that choice and be true to that choice of changing the world, one farm at a time, 1 acre at a time, 1 tree at a time. It can be done. Not easy, but it can be done as long as you hold to, I believe, those 4 bullet points on the cooperative side. Okay, we're almost there. So I told you that I like the 50-year vision. I try to start and end with it. And you all need to decide what your 50-year vision is. This is ours. And but I do really believe that it's important for you to always be thinking ahead, to be thinking about what you're here for and where this needs to be. And I encourage, at least as an exercise, to sit down, even in your own lives, and think about where is this going? What am I going to be doing in 20 years? If Ulu is wildly successful, what do you want them to say about you 50 years from now? Or what do you want them to remember as, intellectual wisdom of why you're here? And what do you want them to do to use this vision to create the next vision for the next 50 years? It's my sincere hope that 10 years from now or 15 years from now, when I hopefully am handing over the reins to Andrew and the youngsters to take this thing over, that they'll look at this 50-year vision and go, they weren't that crazy. It really makes sense. And I think we should just renew for another 50 years. That's what we hope for. And then after that, guys, that's my presentation. So I have no idea how I'm doing on time or anything, or if we have any questions. Oh, I think I'm doing okay on time. I think I hit it. Oh, I was only 1 minute off. All right. So do we have any questions?
We do. I will read them in the order they were populated into the chat box. And if you have more questions, please put them in there. So we have a question from Chantal. The question is, do your co-op members collaborate on waste management or composting efforts?
That's a great question. I can't guarantee that they don't. Does Crop Cooperative have a program for composting? No. And remember, our farms range from 10, 15 cows to on average 78, and really besides 5 that are a little bit larger, usually in that 200 to 300 cow range, right? So they have a lot of compost coming off their farms already. I think there's a lot of effort put into composting, and I do know folks that are selling compost off their farms. It's a pretty important piece of our sustainability effort, and compost is something that our farmers are pretty educated in the value where we are with our compost. I will tell you guys, and we didn't talk about it here, but we're launching a carbon insetting program. We launched it in March, where we've come out and said that we'll be carbon neutral by 2050. And I know you guys hear all that on the news and the commercials and all those kind of pieces about carbon credits. We're actually doing that in a way that's real. So our farmers are making changes on their farms, which would include integrated composting to drive insets. So we're actually working to buy these insets from our farmers as they continue to do it for real. We don't believe in buying, from somebody in wherever, if we're not changing the way we're farming or what we're doing in our properties, then we're not helping the world by just buying something from somebody else. That's just swapping things out. So composting is integral. It's part of there'll be a value to them utilizing compost in our insetting program. So it's something that we're pretty, our farmers, especially on the organic side of things, have found that compost is really, really important to them.
Thank you, Travis.
Yep.
We have a question from Sequoia. She says, obviously, there can't be centralized processing. How does it work? Is each farm responsible for its own processing and distribution?
Yeah, no. So I will tell you that every farmer is responsible, and I'm just going to talk about dairy, to be a grade A licensed dairy. And so there's a whole process to that. But to make it real simple, farmers have a bulk tank, like a big metal tank that's refrigerated on their farms that we pick up every other day. And so my father's a great example of this, right? He never wanted to sell products or process or do any of that stuff. He wanted a truck to drive up, put the pipe on there, take the milk, pay him a fair price, and really not to have to see anybody. That would be his kind of dream, right? Farm, quiet, peaceful, and I'm getting paid for what I'm doing. So we collect all the milk and we deal with that. Now that's a lot of milk that we deal with. We deal with 1.7 billion pounds of milk a year. So you're right, though. We can't process all in one spot. That's where the 90 co-processing partners come in. So we have plants that we work with all over the country that we've had to get their plants certified. We go in, we work with those folks to process the different products. We do about 1,000. It might be even a little higher, more, maybe like 12,000 or 1,200 different products or SKUs from bulk all the way up through all our different packaged goods. And we have different plants all over the country that do those different products. Then we have to bring those in and put them into distribution centers and then move them around. So we do that as a co-op. We love to pride ourselves. And when I say this a lot in jest, of being one of the most complicated supply chains in the country. And so it makes it tremendously difficult. And when you're working with small farmers, this does not make it any easier at all. But it's the mission and the vision. So that's a long ways of saying, nope, we take care of it all. But it is part of, it is a very complex situation. It's why you really want to have really good relationships with any kind of processors you have. And of course, then we don't have to spend the money on processing plants, which for us, if you guys go and get a carton of milk and it's a UHT carton, which for the most part, guys, if you're turning a little plastic thing on a half gallon of milk, that's a UHT carton. Those kind of plants run for a nice $150, $175 million. We'd rather spend the money making sure we're trying to give back the most dollars to our farmers than putting it into plants.
Thanks, Travis.
Yep.
Glenn Tevis has a question. Do you folks return capital retains to your farmers, or do you use it to expand infrastructure or maintain a cushion for contingencies? And how do you decide this?
Wow, Gwen, that's a great question. I would say yes to all of it, but I'll try to be a little more specific. So every farmer, once they've joined the cooperative, have a one-time investment into the cooperative of 5.5% of your gross annual income from crop. So if you make $100,000, you're going to put in 5.5%, right? So you're going to put in $5,500. That is considered your Class B investment. You get the board of directors decides on a yearly basis what the return will be on that money. They have a set 4 to 8% that they can choose to give on that investment. They're the farmers also, or the board members are the same people that have the Class B investment. So trust me, if there's any way they're going to do it, it's an 8% return on their money. So that happens. And I said one time, so it's in there, and then you'll get it. Right now we're doing a cash payout on that. We're not letting reinvestment at this time. So that's the first question. Give me the second one.
The second one was, how do you decide?
Yeah. Okay. But before that, so there was capital investment. Oh, do we have a cushion? Yeah, no, we don't have cushions. I'd say we walk a tight wire all the time. And again, that is by design in a lot of ways. How does that get decided? Board of directors make those decisions. So we have a profit goal, usually around a 2.5% profit goal, net profit. We've hit that 3 times in our history. We've made money 31 out of 34 years. Our scorecard, of course, is what is our return over organic or conventional pricing. And we tend to average right now about $300 million of additional value to the farmers is kind of our that's the pay price and how much return we're getting over the conventional dollars. It's been my experience, and I was on the board for 6 years, so I would have been involved in it too. We would like to retain an unretained allocation, right? So just the cushion that you're talking about, that you keep the first 1% in the business to protect it. In the last few years, we've probably not been able to do that. We've had to pay down debt because we made some decisions in 2015-16 where we were oversupplied because the market changed on us, and we had to make a decision what we were going to do there. And we decided to hold pay price and not get rid of 450 farmers, but rather suffer through losing money and trying to get balanced. Some of that rainy day fund came in very handy, that cushion. But really, we try to give back all the money to the farmers that we can, and the board of directors ultimately makes those decisions.
Thanks, Travis.
I think I answered them all on that one.
I think you did. Glenn,
Okay.
Feel free to chime in if you have a follow-up question there. So I have a question, Travis. I'm going to try to ask this question succinctly. So one thing that really stood out to me when we had an opportunity to visit you in Wisconsin a few weeks ago is that Hawaii farmers are, really, I think, different, generally speaking, than farmers on the US continent, in that we're very, very small and diversified, and don't have usually a super long history of multi-generational farming because of our history of colonialism and then the plantations. And it's really just been in the last few decades that there's been this proliferation of small diversified family farms. And my question is, how would you advise co-ops, farmer-owned co-ops in Hawaii today on the best way to strengthen their membership, given that most of our farmers are not fully reliant on farming for their source of income? And we're trying to get there, but we're not there yet. Yeah,
that's a great question with no easy answer. So way to stump me on the call. I think that the way I would look at it and I've been kind of blessed. I mean, I get to talk to Ulu, and now I've been talking to the state senator a few times that's very interested in rural agriculture in Hawaii. You know, I think that all that's going to be a challenge. There's no question about it. I also see that there's like this whole movement, right? You know, and that you guys are starting right now that's about food sovereignty, that I think that you have a lot of support from your government, and I think from your communities. And so it's going to take a few of very stubborn people, and really, I call them heroes, because it was no different in the organic movement when, you know, it wasn't any different. Our sizes might be bigger, but in the grand scheme of things, it was minute too, and we're still very, very small as individually. It will be a challenge until you can get to get some of you to scale to a point of where you can actually show a lifestyle that can be created using Ulu. But from what I've been able to see of how you're growing right now, you're not very far away from being able to do that. And once you're able to show that this actually has an opportunity for someone to be able to do something, that they can stay on the land, they can stay connected to what they're doing, and that they can make a life on it, I think you're going to see that'll sell itself. The other thing I would just tell you, while, you know, the mainland does have, you know, legacy and size, there's very few farmers, including myself, when I came back out of school in '95, when I came back to the farm, that wasn't working off farm. My wife and I came home. We were going to start up with my parents. They had 40 cows and no replacements. And we had to start kind of from scratch. So I was working 2 16-hour shifts. I was working 3 days a week to get my 40 hours in. And then I was volunteering my time to start our farm up for the second generation. So I know that is not normal, because you guys have had such a different cultural experience. But I do think it's okay to be like, hey, you got to start somewhere. And I think that you probably got to find ways where it's not just one tree. And I think because one tree doesn't really make a commitment that you're going to need long term. But I can see it in all of where you're driving this co-op, that if you can get a few examples, then you're going to have people wanting to flock there. Heck, I was on Realtor saying Ulu farms for sale to see where they were, because it's interesting and it's exciting, and you can see it. So that's a long way around to saying I don't have that answer for you, but you shouldn't give up. You need heroes that persevere, and you may see your membership go down for a while because they go, what's 3 Ulu trees? But if you can, I believe that you have the leaders intact and farmers intact, that group can show people the way. I really believe it. And all you have to do is believe it too. And you'll get there. It won't be easy, but I also think that you have some angels out there that want to support you. And while I'm not an angel, obviously you have people like me that are really interested in seeing you succeed. And I think that those are the kind of people that made crops successful. We would have never survived. And you met some of those people, including Jerome, that we would have never survived just by being without the help of others. And I think that when you're doing the right thing, people flock to that, and you get help from unexpected places, and it changes the world. So it's kind of exciting and hard. But I did want to show you guys my shirt before I lose you all. See, you can dream big and farm small, and it can all work out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Travis. That was a great answer. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, Travis, especially for your mana'o, as we say in Hawaii, which is your wisdom and your teachings. We're very grateful. And I think we're all inspired. So please join us again for our final and 4th workshop of the series on Thursday, May 19th, where we will dive into co-op financials and fundraising with two experts on co-op finances and the legal side of finances as well. So don't miss out. Thank you again, Travis. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Aloha.
Aloha, thank you.